Right, we return now with a look at, of course, the latest arrangement between South Africa and the East African nation of Kenya, which, of course, has settled a long-running travel dispute with South Africa over the travel visas. As a result, Kenyans will return or will begin visa-free travel for up to 90 days when visiting South Africa from the 1st of January next year. South Africans already enjoy free visa on arrival in Kenya, while Kenyans were charged and required to provide proof of sufficient funds and return flight tickets. Joining us now to explain how the new visa system will work is Home Affairs Minister Dr. Motsoaledi. Minister, good evening. Good to have you, and thank you very much for your time. Are you giving in one hand, taking in another, or is this an arrangement that is extended broadly to all other countries?
Oh no, nothing like that, Tau. Nothing at all. Nothing nearer to what you have said. Remember, Tau, all SADC countries, and you are aware that there are 15 SADC countries, all member SADC countries come to South Africa visa-free. They don't apply any visa. All we need is a passport, and that they must be documented when they come into South Africa via that passport, and that they must not come illegally through jumping fences, but to come through the ports of entry where they are well documented. That has been happening from time immemorial with all SADC countries. Now, in 2019, during my budget vote, I announced 6 more countries that are allowed to come to South Africa visa-free. Among them were the Arab countries, you know, the Saudi Arabia, yes, Saudi Arabia, not Arab countries, I'm sorry, Saudi Arabia, and there was a total of 6. Now, Kenya was not given that status, but as I'm speaking here now, Tab, Kenyans do come to South Africa, but they have to apply for a visa. South Africans go to Kenya almost every day, but they don't apply for a visa altogether. They just take their passport and go. And that's exactly what the Kenyans were asking and demanding, that no. But we are allowing you to come here. All you need is a passport. Why are we not giving a similar treatment when we visit South Africa? I'm talking here of tourists, visitors, business people, anybody coming to South Africa for such purposes. They are required to get visas. Now, the agreement is that they can come visa-free for 90 days, just like we are doing with members of SADC.
So, did you have to wait for them to raise the issue, or why were they not extended that courtesy? As you put it, 15 other countries were already enjoying that.
Because we're having discussions, because there were issues raised with Kenya, which were not of Kenya's making. We in South Africa were very concerned and worried that Kenya is being used, not with their cooperation, of course, but is being used as a transit facility for people who enter South Africa illegally, especially from the Far East, in countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Somalia. They usually use Kenya to enter South Africa illegally. And since 2019, we've been discussing this with the Kenyans and asking them to put something on the table that will allay our fears about this possibility. You know very well why we are worried about people from such countries, because we are worried about the safety and security of our own country. The Kenyans agreed, and we started working with them. One of the things that happened as part of this process, Thabo, is that you'll remember that the former president of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, paid a state visit in November last year. And in a meeting together with President Ramaphosa, they agreed to sign a far-reaching agreement, what is called a returns agreement. We have been trying with other countries on the continent to sign a returns agreement with us, and they never did. Even the SADC members who have got visa-free entry in South Africa never agreed to sign a returns agreement. But Kenya did so. They've signed it in November last year during the state visit. A returns agreement means if we find an individual within the borders of our country who emerged from Kenya, it doesn't matter what nationality is that person. But if they came into South Africa emerging from Kenya or through Kenya, we immediately take them back to Kenya. We no longer follow the normal process of repatriation, of deportation, which you know, where you send people to Lindela, conduct their embassies, etc. No, in the returns agreement, you don't do that. We just inform Kenya that there's somebody here who came in from your territory, we are sending them back. And we are finding that extremely useful. And we found Kenya having been extremely cooperative. The second thing they agreed on was that we are going to place the person at Nairobi Airport, International Airport. It's called Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, actually, in Nairobi. We're going to put a person there on a full-time basis. Any plane that is heading from that territory to South Africa, that person has got the right to go in and check who is there. If they found any undesirable person who is using Kenya as a transit facility, then that person won't be allowed to come. Lastly, we are going to form joint task teams between crime intelligence, military intelligence, state security, and immigration officials, and DERCO, by the way, in South Africa, and their counterparts in Kenya. We are going to form a task team which will meet on a quarterly basis to assess whether there are any problems by virtue of this agreement. So we realized after Kenya met all those concerns, there was no reason for us really for us to give them what is already being given to other countries.
You satisfied that is enough to I suppose, satisfy us as far as our strengthening of our security of our airports and major public areas. I mean, all you're saying is, well, we've got their word, they've signed this agreement, that we don't have to follow the normal repatriation processes, we can immediately send you back. Two, we've got one person, from what I'm understanding, who's there, who'll check that there is no funny business that's going on. And then now and again, this task team will sit and evaluate whether this is working. Is that enough? Is that enough of an installation to make sure that our security is strengthened?
Well, it is enough, because you may ask me the same question about all the other countries that are allowed to come here without anything, without any document. Why are you not worried about security in that regard? I've just mentioned to you all the SADC countries. No, I've mentioned to you...
We are talking about Kenya now. I was not having a discussion about all the other countries yet.
Oh, yes. No, I'm trying to say, Thabo, what you are giving to Kenya, we are giving to all the other countries. If we had worries about all the other countries, we will have similar worries about Kenya. But the worry about Kenya was specific, about people who are using it. Now, President Ruto himself said no. To stop these people using our facility is not only satisfying South Africa, it's also for our own security as Kenya. We don't want people to come here through, because they say they also get attacks. I'm sure you're aware. There have been several attacks and bomb attacks in Kenya. So, I mean, it's also not in their interest for people to use their facility. Actually, Thabo, they've already helped us. Let me give you an example. After 2019, when we laid this complaint with Kenya, we said we want to see, before we reach any agreement and give them visa-free status, we want to see their determination by clamping down on anybody who uses their facility to come into South Africa. And Kenya did that. How do we know? Immediately after we had that discussion, the Kenyans phoned our embassy, our mission in Namibia, and complained that you told us that we should clamp down on people who are using our facility to come into South Africa. We have started doing that, but here we found some Pakistani and Bangladeshi nationals passing through Nairobi. When we clamped down on them, they produced South African visas that they've been allowed to come to South Africa. They've been given visas. Now, our ambassador in Namibia, Mr. Archie Whitehead, was confused, and he asked them, why do you conduct us in Namibia when you are talking about South Africa? The headquarters of South Africa is Pretoria. Why don't you conduct Pretoria? They said, no, it's because these visas these gentlemen have produced came in from Namibia, from your mission. And we investigated Thabo. We found that there is an official from Home Affairs who was sent to that mission, who was giving a Pakistani and Bangladeshi national fraudulent visas to come into South Africa. They grab them and come through Kenya. They did not even have to travel to Namibia. They just collect the passports, courier them to Namibia, and this corrupt lady in our mission in Namibia will put in fraudulent visas, South African visas, courier them back to Pakistan or Bangladesh. They take them via Nairobi, coming to South Africa. We, of course, suspended that lady. We charged her, and we fired her from the department. And we reported the matter to the Hawks, because there is criminality in this issue. And the Hawks started investigating. Unfortunately, when they were about to arrest her, she passed on. And I'm just mentioning that because I'm still confused what happened, but I've got my own suspicions. Now, that work was done by the Kenyans in making sure that the security we're talking about, they actually respect it. And so we are quite satisfied that they are determined and dedicated.
So, except for having this gateway for easy travel, just picking up your passport and going to the airport and catching a flight, others would ask, so what is the benefit really for South Africa to have these visa-free, fee-free visa arrangements with the countries in the SADC region? What is our interest there, and what is their interest in wanting to come to South Africa in such a manner?
Is business, tourism, interactions, and cohesion. And by the way, Thabo, let me mention, all the European countries also have got a visa-free status to South Africa, as is the United States of America. So is the whole of Europe, is America, is SADC, and a few countries that I've mentioned. So we are just adding Kenya to that. We are not giving them anything that has not been given to other countries. The benefits is tourism and travel. The meeting we've had in Kenya this week, with the state visit, the president did not go alone with us as ministers. There was a huge contingent of South African businessmen, men and women. From big business, I saw Standard Bank there, I saw Transnet, I saw pharmaceutical industry as in Aspen, and many other big South African businesses who were meeting, and they were welcoming this, and they were saying, they are not able to do business very well. If every time they must come here, they must apply. Remember, we have also signed a deal. The Minister of Human Settlement have also signed a deal with Kenya that South African construction companies must come and put up at least 200,000 houses in Kenya per annum, because they've got a shortage of 2 million houses. Now they are saying all those interactions to facilitate that business, whether that give them visa-free entry, as they are giving us to South Africa. All South African businessmen, when they want to go to Kenya, they just fetch their passport and go to the airport. But the Kenyan businessmen of similar magnitude will have to apply and wait for a visa. That is the differences, and that's what we are trying to solve.
What is the room for review of this dispensation if, for example, conditions are not being strictly adhered to?
When inbuilt in that agreement is exactly that there is going to be a quarterly review. If we find anything wrong, we stand the right to say, okay, let's suspend this for